are you, sir?
This is Pierre.
Oh.
I can't believe I'm talking to you, Dr. Ray the Great.
Well, I don't know about that.
I love listening to you. You have a personality just like my father.
I don't think you should feel helpless. You are helpless.
Doctor, I really appreciate that. That makes me feel a lot better.
You be at peace, or else I'm going to yell at you.
Trying to find a reason to speak to you. I think you're the best thing since sliced bread.
That Ray, he's something.
Thank you so much for what you're doing for all the parents out there.
I don't know what I can possibly do.
I don't either.
I'm getting my money worth, I think, at this phone call.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Personality just like my father, huh? Used to get personality like my young son. Personality like my spouse. Personality like my younger brother. Well, I'm up to personality like my father. Could be worse. Could be you have a personality just like my great-grandfather. Good to have you with me. Dr. Ray here, the program The Doctor is In. I'm the doctor who is in, not a real doctor. My son, when he was 5, said, "You can't give shots, can you, Dad?" I go, "No." He goes, "Then why do they call you doctor?" It began the first lack of respect from my children when he was pre-kindergarten. Good to have you here. Number here is 877-57-EQUAL, 877-573-7825, if you would like to get onto the program. I, on the other hand, had to struggle to get onto the program. You don't. I think it's a bit unfair. Like you guys get trophies just for participating. I had to win the trophy here to get on the air. If you have a question about something in your life, someone in your life, someplace in your life, something in your life, some stressor in your life, it's all some, or if you have a whole bunch of them, so you have a sum of a sum, give me a call. We can talk about it and see what's going on here. I'm not going to do any therapy, can't do that. Can't diagnose, won't do that, and also probably will not entertain anything you ask if you're seeing a therapist. That's issues for you and the therapist to talk about. But we can educate, give a few ideas, ponder your options, think a little bit about what might be a good route. Sometimes just making a little tweak in the approach to someone or something has a reverberating effect. It's like throwing a stone into the river and watching the ripples go out. We can do that. Matter of fact, that's the way most of life changes. You make little tweaks. You make little changes here and there, and they ripple. They cascade into positives you didn't see coming. And that's what we hope to do on this program. So, the number is 877-573-7825. Good Lord permitting, right after the program here, I'm going to be heading to D.C., because it's an event every year that I really look forward to. It is the Catholic Radio Conference. And the neat thing about that is I get to see a lot of the people who are making it work for Catholic Radio, the networks and the independent stations. A lot of them come. And we get a chance just to talk a little bit and see each other and renew a few acquaintances. These are the people who make Catholic Radio a presence in the country. And they bring its effect, beautiful effect, to the folks. And it's going to be great to see that. Then you got the family conference. You got the EWTN family conference on Saturday. I don't know what the attendance is to that. It's usually pretty good. They got me speaking in the morning, so that's kind of neat. Looking forward to that very, very much. Over the years, made a lot of great friends in the Catholic media. A lot of great friends. And just enjoy it. On the way in here, I heard bits and pieces of a shooting tragedy, I believe in Minneapolis, at a Catholic church, Catholic school. I didn't get the whole details. The question, of course, becomes, why is this happening? Why is this becoming somewhat regular, tragically regular in our culture? And there are those who point to one aspect, and they exaggerate that aspect. The individual has a history of mental disorder. They point to the fact that we're not treating folks with mental disorders properly, not enough intervention. If it was committed with a gun, they point to the guns, and they say to easy access to guns. It's much more complex than that, in my opinion. If you look at it from above, like a psychological drone flying over it. I've been called a psychological drone. I see so many factors entering in. I look back 60 years ago. You could go to an airport and you could stand at the gate. Nobody checked you for anything. 50, 60 years ago, you just walked into a building. If you're gone into the county seat, you just walked in. You didn't have to be screened. Now we just take it routinely everywhere that you have to be screened. The schools are fortified. We're not talking 200 years ago and it's changed. We're talking 2 generations ago and it's changed. What has done this? Well, the factors are pervasive in our culture, and they're not easily corrected. If I'm thinking, is there an answer to this? I don't think so. I think essentially what's going to happen is that we will continue to find ways to protect vulnerable places from people who are susceptible to this kind of acting out. What's spurring it? 1, you can't give God the boot. You give God the boot, or basically what you do to God is you make him irrelevant. You may not say he doesn't belong here. You just make it so that he's kind of irrelevant. Put him on a shelf. Bring him down when you need him for something that you want. But short of that, more and more people just simply say there is no God, or if there is, he's irrelevant. So once you get rid of God, you're going to have an uptick in all this stuff. In personal misery, the research is overwhelming. Belief in a God and in living by his guidelines is one of the best things to keep you stable emotionally. So you get rid of God, then you're going to flounder around, try to find your own way. And that way is going to be shaped by a culture. And another factor is that we have the ability to, through social media, through the internet, through basically unlimited assault on traditional morality, on self-control, it's coming at you. Relentless. It's a tidal wave. It's everywhere. It's soaking people. Unfortunately, the majority of people don't respond pathologically to it, but susceptible individuals do. Another factor, I think this is particularly political, but if you look at our president, whether you like him or whether you don't, whether you agree with him, whether you don't, successfully a large portion of our influence-shaping people have made him out to be Satan. And if, in fact, he is Satan, then anything goes to stop him. And, in fact, as the information is coming in with this particular shooter, he had some things written on the gun that spoke to this. And other factors, of course, less and less fathers in homes. Fathers could be a guiding, stabilizing influence. Less and less fathers. The culture has become just simply across the board much more violent. And people who are susceptible. I deal with a lot of folks who are emotionally pretty fragile. And if you whip them into a frenzy, they're going to hurt people. They're going to look for ways to cause devastating damage within their ability. And this is what happens. So how do you do this? You could eliminate legally every gun in this culture. You're still going to have people who are going to hurt people bad. Because at the very core of the way we're living our culture, we can't get a grip on stuff. We can't make social media accessible only to those over 18. We can't do that. We can't get rid of pornography. I watch a lot of crime shows. And these guys who create these absolutely hideous, horrible crimes almost always have been into some kind of violent, extreme, violent pornography. But we can't, what's the word I'm looking for? Keep it under control. We can't stop it. It's everywhere. All in the name of libertarianism. We all just have to have freedom to do what we want, which means you take away the moral guidelines. You take those away, anything goes. Do I think this stuff's going to keep happening? I do. When I first started on Catholic radio, Columbine, I think Columbine was in Colorado, was horrific. These two guys, young men, definitely into violent video games, definitely into all kinds of dark stuff through the internet. Since then, oh gosh. I was in Uvalde 2 years ago, and one of the Border Patrol agents took me around and he showed me all the crosses of those 20 kids, those 20 elementary kids, on the square. Of a guy, young man, seriously disturbed young man, just open fire. Now, this kind of violence is not going to be stopped by making more laws, because the people just disobey the laws, and half the time they kill themselves, so they're not worried about any kind of legal consequences. If you don't get a culture to start putting some moral guidelines, some moral guardrails on conduct, then you're basically in trouble. You know, there's been and I'm not getting into politics here. I'm just getting into facts. The number of murders in Washington, D.C. last year was more than all of the murders in 1 year in the United Kingdom. Population of the United Kingdom, 70 million. Population of D.C., about 1 million. Why is this? What is it about our culture? Until we start really taking an honest gut check look at that, this stuff's just going to keep happening. Going to keep happening. So that's my assessment on this. And it frustrates me that nobody will look, not nobody. We don't have enough of the opinion shapers and the guts in our politicians and our legal to say, all right, we better look at the factors here that are just running rampant in our society, allowing more and more of these disturbed individuals to do this. That's my rant. 877-573-7825 is the number to call to get onto the program. I want to hear from you. Thank you for calling.
Honey, did you ever call Mighty Dog Roofing of Ann Arbor for that free roof inspection?
I knew I forgot something.
Roof leaks can cause mold buildup or even roof collapse. Protect your family today by calling local Catholic Dan and Mary Flanagan at Mighty Dog Roofing for a free inspection of your roof, siding, or windows. Mighty Dog Roofing, 734-224-4916. That's 734-224-4916. Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Ray Guarendi, host of The Doctor Is In. Ave Maria Radio has been putting out fabulous Catholic teaching, but the equipment we've got is aged. Like me, needs a lot of help. Some of the stuff is just hard to replace anymore. If you go to AveMariaRadio.net, please, for a donation for the equipment to reach much farther. You're not just donating, you're broadcasting hope.
Underwritten in part by the following nonprofit.
Are you paying high prices with a traditional health insurance company that pays for things that violate your conscience? There's an alternative available. Solidarity HealthShare is a community of faithful individuals and families that never share into immoral medical services, all while saving you money with prices starting as low as $85 per month for singles and $512 for families. Never fund another abortion with your healthcare dollars. Call 844-313-4999 to learn more.
Being loved for my mind. I was loved for my mind in college. Now, Tiffany would call me. She said, Ray, can you come over Saturday? We spent a little time together. I said, oh, that's great, Tiffany. Sure. Can you come over in the afternoon? Oh, yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, she wants to spend the whole day together. We'll go out to eat. We'll go horseback riding. And I got there, and she said, Ray, I wonder if you could you help me with my math homework? I really don't understand it. And I won't really be able to stay here with you too long because I've got a date with Biff. But, just when you finish, just make sure you lock the dorm room door. Oh, okay, sure, I can do that. Yeah, and then I started giving her the wrong answers. That's what I did. Marianne from Michigan. Hi, Marianne.
Hi, Dr. Ray. My question is about reclusive people. My brother-in-laws are very close to us, and at least they were. They live with their mother, my husband's mom.
Both
and
of them?
We always visited them. Yeah, they work, but they were never married. And we had a great time. I mean, it was the highlight of our weekend to go see them. My kids love them to death. And then after the mother died, they don't invite us over anymore. They don't come to graduation. They didn't come to birthdays. They just stay at home. And two of the other siblings have said in text, oh, they're recluse. You just have to understand them. Well, I don't. And it hurts us. It hurts me. My husband's used to it. I'm wondering if you can shed some light on their thinking and their behavior. And I mean, I know the behavior, but like what causes this? What causes them to be recluse and not want to go anywhere and not have friends and reach out to people?
How old are they, Marianne?
I think 65 and 55.
They've been living with their mother all those years?
Yes. They've never been married.
I don't know them, obviously, but the first thought that jumps in my mind is that they were semi-reclusive to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to live with your mom, not live independently, it would seem that you could constrict your social circle. It would just kind of happen naturally. Right. Then the second thing that comes to me is that, do you think that mom was the one who urged them to be more sociable?
Well, I know the other siblings are. My husband is pretty social, and his other brother's social.
Yeah, but they're also out and about. They don't live with mom.
Yeah.
See, my guess would be this. What you saw with those brother-in-laws was an exception to their personality. Now, I'm speculating now because I don't know them. But
no,
because
that's good.
Because mom was there, mom was the one, whatever she did, whether it was an active push or a subtle nudge, whatever, or she orchestrated it, whatever it was, she was the one who encouraged these kinds of contacts. When she passed away,
got it.
They reverted back to what they normally would be like. That'd be my guess. See, you're thinking they were normally very connecting and sociable with us, and now they're not anymore. I think what you're looking at now is normal, and before it somehow was moved by mom.
Well, what's their thinking, because it hurts us when they're not around. You know, we invite them over. We want to go with them. We have vacations, and they just they don't even answer their phone. It's hard to get a hold of them. I mean, it's bad. And
well, that should tell you, Marianne, that should tell you that it shouldn't hurt you. Because for whatever the reason, they don't want to have contact with people. Whatever it is. Keeping in mind now, they've lived with Mom to age 55 and 65, which is in itself extremely unusual. Especially if they're capable of living on their own. They don't have handicaps or developmental disabilities. So given that, the fact that they've just simply cut off contact has nothing to do with you. You know, you say it hurts us. Shouldn't hurt you at all. That's what they're doing. You can say, gee, I don't like that. I really enjoyed the relationship we seemed to have 2 years ago. But the fact that it would hurt you is a leap into taking it personally.
Okay.
I think I would just look at it and say, well, for whatever it is, they just have decided they want to live the rest of their life with minimal contact with most people. I'd explain that to the kids. I tell that to the kids. I would. Hey, guys, people do this. When there are changes in their lives, guys, all of a sudden they start changing the way they approach things. And sometimes they change the way they approach people. I have had friends that I was, so close to. I mean, close. And then when the activity that we usually surrounded our social connections with ended, that was kind of it.
That was it, yep.
That was it.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you so much.
You are welcome, my dear. Thank you. Talk to you.
Have a good day. God bless. Bye.
Oh, boy, we got some good thought. Now, I got about a minute and a half, guys, before I come back. So please, be patient with me. Don't go anywhere. I want to hear. Oh, okay. All right, there's just popped up somebody who disagrees with me. So, absolutely, I will take care of that. 877-573-7825. Ooh, okay, good enough, I'll do it. Now, I don't want to get into politics on here, but there's a certain perception about things that people have. So, I will do that. I got 1 minute. How do I kill 1 minute? Oh, I got 2 minutes. See, my clock is really screwy. All right, let's go. All right, let's go to Joe. Let's go to Joe. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Dr. Ray.
You know, when I said hi, Joe, all I thought of was Jackie Gleason when he played Joe the bartender, and I forget who came in. Hiya, Joe. Hello, Mr. Donaghy. There are not too many of us are going to remember that one, Joe.
Unfortunately, Dr. Ray, I might be one of them that doesn't remember that.
I know it. You pup. Okay. So, yeah, you're right. I did a monologue a couple weeks back on this whole generational divide.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm catching you at the end of the break, so I know we don't have a lot of time. But I was really curious about your thoughts because I actually heard you speaking the other day on Saturday. I don't know if it was a recording or if you were there live to someone on EWTN, and you had mentioned something about the younger generation not getting married and not buying houses. And I think there's a lot of criticism from the older generation to the younger generation, particularly the young millennials and the Zoomers, the Gen Z, about not kind of following the traditional cultural steps. And
stay there, Joe. I'm not going to cut you off. Yeah, I'm not going to cut you off, buddy. Stay there. My clock is messed up, Andrew. I still got 125 something. This is Dr. Ray. I'm talking to Joe. You heard me say something a few weeks back, and then a rerun on EWTN on a Saturday. And he noticed that there was there's some definitely generational divide in the sense that the stat he was alluding to, relatively recent, at age 30 right now, age 30, if you own your own home and you're living independently, you're 13%. 50 years ago, it was 50%. So Joe's making a comment, well, actually he's asking for my comment, on what is it? What's happening out there? You still there, Joe?
Yes, thank you for picking me up on the other side.
Sure. Well, yeah, be more particular. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm a young millennial, basically on the edge of Gen Z, the generation after, and I do hear a lot of criticism from the boomer generation of the young people, like, you know, you guys don't want to work, you're not loyal to your jobs, you're lazy, you know, you don't kind of have the old school sort of patriotism, you know, you're very cynical about the world, about your country, about life. And I think that's a fair criticism. I think that's a lot of how the young generation feels. Whereas the young generation to the old generation sort of feels like, you know, you've screwed us over in a lot of ways in life. And I think maybe both are a little bit harsh. But, yeah, you know, you had made the statement the other day, or at least there was a rerun, about, yeah, you know, not as many people are getting married and buying houses. And I think there's a lot to say about cultural ideas of marriage that are probably, you know, degenerating. But I think for a lot of young people, there's a sense of a hopelessness looking at the world in which they think, well, you know, it's really hard out there. You know, the minimum wage, I read a thing the other day, and I don't know if it's true, so, you know, take it with a grain of salt, but it said that, like, back in the 80s, if you were to make minimum wage back in the 80s, an hour of minimum wage would buy you, like, 4 Big Macs. And an hour of minimum wage today would buy you a third of a Big Mac. So it's like the wages versus what you can buy has really gone down. And there's
be careful on that one, Joe. That do the math. Do the math. An hour of minimum wage. Let's just say it's $12 minimum wage. Would buy you a third of a Big Mac.
Not, but
that means a Big Mac is $36.
Uh-huh.
So you got to watch that stuff.
Well,
but what you're saying is legit. What you're saying is this.
Yeah.
That the generations have changed radically very quickly. That's true. This is happening. I think all generations have looked at the next one. I've even read comments from the old philosophers in Greece who talked about the younger generation is this, and this. So us older timers looked at the youngers and say, oh, you know, they don't have the wellness, the put togetherness, the drive, the moxie that we have. Okay, so that's always been there, always. However, I think one of the things you can say in this generational divide is that the shaping forces of how younger people think are very powerful. For most of human history, the shaping forces were your family, your tribe, your clan, your immediate social circle. Well, now the shaping forces are the people who have the influence, whether that's on social media, whether it's the internet, whether it's television, whether it's media, whether it's Hollywood. I mean, I watch these commercials. They're relentless in how they essentially shape you to think that the traditional morals are stupid and don't belong. So you're right. I think there has been a radical shift in the way life is looked at just in the last couple of generations. Radical, fast. If you look at the stats, for example, never before have 40% of Gen Zers said, yeah, no religion at all. I got none. Well, that's never been. In times we've taken any kind of polls on it, never, not even close. Well, if you have no religion whatsoever, it follows that, in fact, the way you look at life is going to be very different from somebody who does have religion. It just does. So I think you're right. I think the older people are wrong in looking at a blanket statement about the younger people who say, you guys are just a waste. However, if you look at social trends, for example, do you know that 30% of females in our culture are now on psychotropic medication? Did you know that?
No, but that doesn't surprise me.
Exactly. So what it's speaking to is misery or hurt or whatever it is that makes them feel like I've got to have a chemical to make me better able to deal with life. And again, that's more common among the younger generation. Sexual confusion among the younger generation is off the charts. If you look at people over 60, they don't have anywhere near the sexual confusion. The younger people, I saw a statistic, and again, these are all statistics, but it was young females, somewhere in the late teens, early 20s, 30% of them said they were not heterosexual. I mean, it's just a radical shift in approaches to life, and I think what you're seeing is that the older people are looking back and going, what the heck is going on? And I do think it relates to my opening monologue, which is the cultural forces. Yeah, cultural forces are just out of control. So a guy like you, who is responsible, who tries to live with maturity, I can understand you don't like being tarred with the same brush. That the old folks look at the younger folks and say, what is with them? They're all messed up. Well, there is some truth to it if you look at the stats, but it's unfair to do it to a guy like you and the many good young people still out there, still striving. Which, by the way, I'll let you go after this, Joe. I was going to do a monologue, but it kind of got sloughed aside after this most recent horrific tragedy, on the amount of young people, especially males, who are looking at the Catholic Church and converting. It's dramatically jumped. Dramatically jumped. There's a lot of reasons for that. One of which is I think they're dissatisfied with what the culture is saying. This is the way you got to live your life. Joe, thanks. Thanks for letting me ramble on, my friend. Okay, Michael, stay there. Stay there. I really want to hear what you have to say, but I looked at the clock here, and the music's going to start for me. Andrew says, don't forget the taxes on your $12, so you only get $3 after that. Well, you got to make a certain amount. If you're under a certain amount, for example, I think the individual deduction is now what, around $24,000? Is it somewhere in there? So let's say you're making minimum wage, which you can't run a family. You certainly can't live on minimum wage. But if you're making minimum wage, which would be $24,000 a year roughly, maybe 25. Well, you wouldn't pay any tax on that. Federal tax anyway. You pay Social Security because you're getting a $24,000 individual deduction. I know these things. I get hit pretty hard with taxes. It's Dr. Rick. Straight to the front. I would have gotten to Michael right away quick, but no, he didn't. Now that's interesting. Because here's Michael, what he said. He said, I listen every day, and I have a problem with what you said about Trump. Okay, and what I said was, whatever you think of him, if in fact you believe he is Satan, then that more or less tells you can do what you want, or you can make any kind of statement you want, however violent, because you're justified. If in fact he's Hitler, if in fact he's a horrible dictator, if he is those things, then you are rightfully within your jurisdiction to do things that otherwise would be considered greatly immoral. Now, Michael said this. I listen every day, which is interesting, because if he listens every day, he would know that I have a certain worldview and a perspective. I have a problem with what you said about Trump. I didn't say he was a wonderful human being. I simply said, whatever you think about him, if you believe... For example, I'll stop. I interrupted my sentence. That's dumb. See, that's not a good thing to do, to interrupt your sentence. There have been presidents in the past that politically I just could not understand or agree with the way they viewed things and the push that they did to change much in our society. But I didn't view them as evil and awful and having to be stopped at every way someone could. A frightful example of that is I saw horrible polls when there were the assassination attempts on Trump where a significant minority basically said, good. What? Michael went on to say Trump is an immoral person. Now, if he were here, I would have asked him. I said, how did you decide that? His personal life? All right, I'm not going to argue about his personal life. I would only say this. If you have any kind of insight into pretty much every one of our high-profile politicians, not everyone, particularly some of our presidents, personally, they're all questionable in some of the ways they conducted themselves. But then he said he is a terrible, terrible dictator. Now, first of all, if you know what a dictator is, you may say he's overstepping his bounds, he's pushing too hard, and he's doing things that he doesn't have a legal right to do. Now, obviously, we have checks and balances, and some of those things that are quote-unquote dictatorship-like have been challenged. Okay, so that's happened. But if you get someone who comes from another country where, in fact, they've lived under dictatorships, they'll tell you, this is not a dictatorship. You may not like some of the things he's doing or the ways he's doing it. Every president has had these kinds of decisions. No, not like Trump. Oh, no. He has way more than anybody else. When I ask people, I say, what is it that you hate about him? Tell me, what do you hate? I hate that he's built a wall. Okay. So you're saying, okay, you mentioned the National Guard stuff in D.C. Okay. So you're saying that you would like the border to be wide open. Now, is that what you're saying? Okay. That's your decision. All right. The fact that he says, no, I don't want the border to be wide open, and he is acting upon the polls. The polls have basically said the majority of the American public would like the border much more secure. Much more secure. Okay? That's it. Now, D.C. D.C., of all the capitals in the world, D.C. has the highest murder rate of all the capitals in the world. So, if the D.C. police are overwhelmed, if, in fact, in D.C., that there are particular policies that are making enforcement of the law much more difficult, and Trump has said, okay, it is within, he's checked it out legally, it is within a particular policy that he can step in to help the police. All right, so you don't like that? So are you saying what? That the particular murder rate right now is okay? Here's another fact. Over 50% of the murder victims in Washington, D.C. are black. Over 50%. Mostly young males. What are we saying? Are we saying it's okay then that these young males get killed? That they're killing each other? What are we saying here? How do we stop this? Let the police do their job. Well, okay. If, in fact, they were doing their job, these crime statistics could come down. And, of course, it has been said, no, lowest crime rate in 30 years. That's not true. If you look at the FBI statistics, it's not true. So what do you do with this? People of goodwill can disagree on some of this stuff, but to turn and say someone who would do it differently than I would do it, and given that you don't know enough to know all the factors, is evil and terrible and awful, that speaks to me about an individual's thinking. I may have looked at past presidents and said, I absolutely don't agree with the fact that they want to make abortion all the way up to birth, to kill babies as they're being born. I mean, I can't even fathom that. But they did. And the previous administration pushed it with everything they had. All right, I'm still not going to say, in fact, given that they said it is okay to kill babies all the way to birth, coming out, crushing their skull, that's okay? Now, that's bad. All right, that isn't debates on taxes. That isn't debates on D.C. That isn't debates on a border wall. That's saying you can kill a baby as it's being born. Now, I think that's terrible. I think that's wrong. I think it's evil. But I'm not going to turn around and go, therefore this person needs to be stopped at all costs, which is what is happening currently, which tells me there's a certain misshaping of the thinking going on here. And it translates. That person who shot, I think it was Annunciation was the name of the school? I don't know. And I got the impression, I don't know the details, I got the impression he just fired through the windows. That, in fact, he must have been whipped into a frenzy by stuff. Because on his gun, he had stuff labeled regarding how he was making a statement against the evil of the current administration. All right, I better take a break, and we will get to Maria. This is Dr. Ray.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Ray Guarendi here. As a father who has helped homeschool my 10 children, I know the challenges you face. That's why you should check out Sylvan Learning Centers for personalized support tailored to your child's unique needs. Expert tutors in math, reading, and writing provide fun, interactive lessons with both in-person and online options that fit seamlessly into your homeschooling routine.
Visit sylvanlearning.com. Mention Dr. Ray for 10% off at participating centers. Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
Resetting your password, unsubscribing from emails, printing anything. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with an auto owner's insurance independent agent, getting the right coverage for your business doesn't have to be one of them, so you can get back to more important things, like learning how that printer works. That's simple human sense.
Call Choice Insurance Agency at 734-641-4200.
This program brought to you in part by Ave Maria, Florida, a big kind of small town where golf carts take you everywhere and there's always something fun around the corner. Discover championship golf, resort-style amenities, and a town center full of shopping and dining. With Ave Maria University and Ave Maria Catholic Church at its heart, it's a community full of connection and charm. More than 25 model homes are available for viewing. More information can be found at AveMaria.com. That's AveMaria.com.
Alrighty, I'm fired up. Maria, Dallas, Texas.
There's a question springing off of my monologue. Hi, Maria. Thanks for the call.
Hi, Doctor. How are you doing?
Nothing gaining on me.
Well, I just wanted to say, I think, I agree with, the focus on, that this is something that needs to change in our society, moral-wise. And I really love how in our being Catholic, we focus on the family. That's the foundation. That's where we're shaping these kids to become who they're going to be. And I agree that that's a big part of it, of what's going on. It's just I would like to hear your opinion on what you think, though, also on limiting access to these guns and having some sort of similar law throughout, where, certain people can't access these guns. I think that's still, it's like you said, it's a lot of factors, but I'd like to hear your opinion about, the reality of the gun culture in this country too.
We already have laws that certain populations are not allowed to have access to guns. We have laws. And in many of our cities, our bigger cities, they have very strict gun control laws. Now, obviously, people say, well, that's useless because they just drive 50 miles and just buy a gun. I think you're right. I don't know how old this shooter was. My sense is he's an adult. So how he got his gun, I don't know. They'll probably find that out. But the problem is, again, if you look back, if you go back, say, 100 years, guns and access to guns were just part of living, basically. Everybody had one. Well, the murder rate was a fraction of what it is now. So you're right. We're dealing with cultural forces that are happening here. There are irresponsible parents who can see that their 15, 16, 17-year-old is doing nothing but playing violent video games, who may be on social media signaling they want to hurt people, and yet they still are not supervisory enough to keep them under control. I see this all the time from parents. I mean, I can't believe how oblivious some parents could be. They just flat out, they're living their life, and yeah, their kids are growing up in their house, kind of, sort of, but they're not doing anything to keep an eye on this kid. And in fact, that can happen. It just definitely does. The interesting thing, though, Maria, now think about this. I don't know how the guy got the gun. Maybe you can say, well, he got it legally. All right, but my response to that would be, how likely is it that if he was intent on doing something this egregious, that he would just get a gun? He didn't care. He was going to kill himself. So what does he care about, I better not get a gun because it's illegal and because, gosh, I want to kill a bunch of people? That just, again, it doesn't fit. It's incongruous. So you're right. We don't know how often parents have stopped something like this. We don't know. We can't know. Because by definition, if it doesn't happen, you can't measure it. But, and I think what you're saying and what the hope is there a targeted solution? Sorry for that word. Sorry about that. Targeted solution for something like this. And that was my opening monologue, which is no, there isn't. There is not. Until our culture starts to change some of the ways it views things. And it can do that. It definitely can do that. Look at smoking. Smoking has dramatically declined because the culture says, look, this is bad stuff. Look at drunk driving. Drunk driving 50, 60, 70 years ago used to be winked at. Or at least just go home and sleep it off. Well, not anymore. And rightfully so. So a culture can turn its eyes towards a more moral approach to something. It can happen. And I hope it does. I hope it does. You said this too. This is a difficult question. You said, can't somebody see, for example, that this particular person was at risk, or this particular person should not have a gun,
or that this particular person is giving off vibes that would indicate that he's potentially very violent. Yes, you can. But here's the problem with that. They're called red flag laws. If someone says, I think my neighbor is just a surly, curmudgeon-y, difficult, potentially violent human being, and I'm going to report him to the cops. And the cops come in, and on that basis, essentially say, sir, we've got a report on you from somebody who's seen you and decided that this is what you're capable of. Well, we're gonna take your possession of this. That's tricky. That's real tricky. Take it from a psychologist. Many people who size up other people are wrong in the way they size them up. Maria, thank you. Thank you so much for the call, dear. Appreciate it. Let me ramble. Boy, I rambled the whole time today. Thanks for tuning in. Walk with God. A lot of real good things happen when you do.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.